I'm Kent Myers.
I'm Mick Cornett, and it's time for The Verdict.
As a part of its traditional and continuing commitment to public and community service, Crowe and Dunleavy Law Firm presents The Verdict, an objective discussion of contemporary legal issues hosted by Kent Myers. And also brought to you by a friend of Oklahoma Lawyers for Children and Delta Dental Plan of Oklahoma. And welcome to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett. Well, as our regular viewers know, this is a show where we discuss topical issues that affect Oklahomans. And I am joined, as always, by one of Oklahoma's top legal experts, Kent Myers. And Kent, today we'll be talking about an issue that is, well, it's been around for a while, but it's heating back up.
Well, I don't know that it ever calmed down, but it has been around a long time, and it is more in the news now than perhaps before, but always a hot issue, moment of silence in schools. Some will say that's necessary for calming the kids down. Does it imply school prayer at all? Others will say that's a backdoor approach to try to bring prayer back into the public schools, an issue about which there's great division, a great difference of opinion, and a lot of good legal issues to talk about.
Should we have that so-called moment of silence in our schools? Should be a lively discussion. We'll meet our guests when we return. You're watching The Verdict with Mick Cornett and Kent Myers.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
I enrich our cultural landscape.
I help define our quality of life.
I am one of 4,000 artists in central Oklahoma who receive
support from Allied Arts, this community's united arts organization.
I am an allied artist.
In Oklahoma, there are more than 1,600 children waiting to be adopted. They're of all ages, and for many, home has been a source of pain and conflict. They've dreamed of finding a better life and a loving family. Consider adoption. For more information, call 1-877-OK-SWIFT or visit the website www.okdhs.org. Adopt. It may be the toughest job you'll ever love.
And Blankenship has stopped at the line of scrimmage. No gain on the play. Leaving it 4th and 7 on the Tiger 46-yard line. 38 seconds on the clock. The Tigers have no choice but to go for it. Wiggins in to do the kicking. Here's the snap. And the kick is away.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all of the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. Oklahoma Lawyers for Children has over 350 of the best attorneys and volunteers in Oklahoma County who donate their time and services to represent children. For more information, call 405-23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, who's going to introduce our guests.
We have two guests today that know just about as much about moment of silence laws as anyone. On my left, we're honored to have the Honorable Lieutenant Governor Mary Fallon, the Lieutenant Governor of Oklahoma, the first Republican elected as Lieutenant Governor, and the first woman elected as Lieutenant Governor, in memory. A native of Tecumseh, Oklahoma, small town here in Oklahoma, and the mother of two children.
That's right.
Governor, thank you for coming.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
On my right, we're equally honored to have Ms. Joanne Bell. Ms. Bell is from Prague, Oklahoma. She also is the executive director of the ACLU in Oklahoma and has been since 1990. She has been the recipient of many, many awards for civil rights and civil liberties protections, and she knows an awful lot about moment of silence laws as well. Joanne, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Governor, let me start with you and ask, what is a moment of silence law for public schools?
Well, there have been about 7 bills filed this legislative session by Republicans and Democrats to offer a moment of silence in our schools, which basically would say that at the beginning of each school day that students would have a moment to sit down and quietly reflect, to meditate, to say a prayer, or just to sit for 60 seconds at the beginning of each school day, and that the teachers would be in charge of making sure they did that.
So when they get to the classroom, that's when that would happen?
That's when that would happen.
Do you believe that to be desirable?
Oh, yes. I think it would help us in good character development. It would help us in promoting citizenship. I think it'd be great for the teachers. If you've ever been to a classroom at the beginning of the day, and I have a 5th grader and I have a 9th grader, but you know, kids get to school and they're all excited to see each other, and of course the teachers have a little bit of trouble getting them to settle down and get ready for their schoolwork. But it would just help that teacher with basically a classroom management tool, that the students would sit down at the beginning of the school day, have a quiet moment, do whatever they want to do, and then get on with the day.
Ms. Bell, what do you think about that? Sounds pretty good.
It sounds beautiful, and in reality, if it could be that way, it would be wonderful. Moment of silence is, we feel, I've always felt, a backdoor to restoring government-sponsored prayer in public school. You have to look at the motive behind the introduction of something that a student already has. A student already has the right to a moment of silence at any time. It's written in our First Amendment that government cannot prohibit the free exercise thereof. So it's unnecessary legislation that will be held up to abuse, as we've seen in Oklahoma with equal access. So it's not what it seems to be, and we are concerned.
You're fearful that it is a left-handed way, if you will, to bring mandatory prayer back into the public schools? Is that it?
Well, government-sponsored prayer. Yeah. Students being able to pray has never been declared unconstitutional. It's government sponsorship of prayer. And I do visit classrooms, and I do talk to teachers, and teachers see this as another chore that they would have to do. I have a son that's a 3rd grade teacher, and he says he doesn't want to have to explain to his students about the moment of silence because it would put him in a position of actually promoting prayer. So there's lots of problems with it. All one has to do in Oklahoma, and at the ACLU we see it a lot, is to see the abuse of equal access of 1984 to know this would be abused also.
Governor, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a good tool, as I mentioned earlier, for teachers, and it does not require students to pray. There's nothing in there that does it. It says you can meditate, you can sit quietly, you can say a prayer if you choose to, and as Joanne said, you know, the First Amendment clause says that you shall not prohibit the free expression of religion, you know, either.
Yeah, it works both ways,
It works both ways.
You can't establish it, but you can't prohibit it.
You don't want to establish it, but you certainly don't want to prohibit it either. And so I think it's going to be a good tool. And I have talked to many teachers. In fact, we have a list of teachers and superintendents who have endorsed it, including State Superintendent Sandy Garrett, including our Secretary of Education Floyd Coppedge, including our Attorney General Drew Edmondson, who have all said that they think it would be good for Oklahoma.
Would this bill require it, or would it be up to the teacher, or be up to the school?
It would require it.
Okay.
In fact, that's a good question. Let's pull up the bill on a graphic that we have. I'd like to. It's a really short bill, so if we could pull up the moment of silence bill, I'll just read it. In order that the right of every pupil to the free exercise of religion be guaranteed within the schools, and that the freedom of each individual pupil be subject to the least possible pressure from the state, either to engage in or to refrain from religious observation on school grounds, the school board of each school district shall, and Mick, that's your answer to your mandatory permissive question, shall establish the daily observance of 1 minute of silence in each classroom of the district. Now let's pull up the next graphic and we'll finish the bill. During such 1 minute period of silence, the teacher responsible for each classroom shall take care that all pupils remain seated and silent and make no distracting displays, to the end that each pupil may, in the exercise of individual choice, meditate, pray, or engage in any other silent activity which does not interfere with, distract, or impede other pupils in the like exercise of individual choice. Well, Ms. Bell, let me ask you, that seems to be pretty even-handed, and they can pray if they want, they don't have to if they don't want. Do you find that constitutionally offensive?
I think probably in Wallace v. Jaffrey, the court said it best. It's an entanglement of religion, even to declare a moment of silence.
Now, the Wallace case you're talking about is a United States Supreme Court case you're talking about.
Yes, it is. The only time moment of silence has been before the Supreme Court was Wallace v. Jaffrey in 1985. Even the author of this bill admits that it's a prayer bill. Even our Lieutenant Governor Mary Fallin admits it's a prayer bill. So I work a lot of death penalty issues, and we want a moratorium, but I am never deceitful. I say we want to abolish the death penalty. So I wish the author of this bill would acknowledge the fact that it's to restore government-sponsored prayer in the public school, which is what it is.
Do you think it should be permissive or mandatory? This bill requires it in each school, in each classroom. How do you feel about that?
Well, this piece of legislation says it shall be done, and that's where I'm at. You know, I've had some teachers tell me that they're concerned about doing it. They're just afraid that someone may try to bring up separation of church and state, and they're scared to do it. And so I think this gives them the permission to go ahead and do that. And Joanne was mentioning that, you know, I said it's for the purpose of prayer. You know, I don't think I said it's for the purpose of prayer. I said it's for the purpose of establishing a moment of silence where you can sit and meditate. You can have a moment of silence, or you can say a prayer. But my purpose is for a secular purpose, and that is that I think it's for good character development. It'll help, I think, with violence in schools. You know, if children have a moment to come and sit down quietly, think for a moment, do whatever they want to. You know, I think back on the Fort Gibson shooting, and maybe if we'd had a moment of silence in schools and that child would sit there for a minute and reflect before, or Columbine, the Columbine shootings, you know, that might have helped deter, you know, violence in our schools. But I think it's a good classroom management tool, and it does serve for good public policy in Oklahoma.
I've got to jump in here. Joanne, we'll start with you when we get back.
Thank you.
You're watching The Verdict. Mick Cornett, Kent Myers, and our special guest. We'll be right back.
Campfire USA candy sale. Must be that time of year again.
Would you like to buy some Campfire USA candy?
Well, where does the money go?
Your support helps Campfire create fun, educational programs for us.
Oh, hi, Jasmine.
Hi, Mr. Higgins. Would you like to buy some Campfire USA candy to help us on our way to camp?
Sure, guys. You know this one.
For nearly a century, Campfire USA. Today's kids, tomorrow's leaders.
It's for the kids.
St. Gregory's University has been changing the lives of people like me for 125 years. Affordable, private Catholic education, balanced with dedication to community and service, makes St. Gregory special. We're extremely proud of our students' outstanding academic achievements and our nationally ranked athletic teams. It's when you help a student build a future of balance, integrity, and service that you change a life forever. St. Gregory's, a community for life.
Yesterday was plain awful.
You can say that. On Broadway is Oklahoma's premier youth musical theater company.
Bringing our daughter here was one of the smartest things we've ever done.
I've learned a lot. I've gained a lot of confidence. They helped me develop talents I never knew I had.
And it's fun.
On Broadway, Oklahoma's premier youth musical theater company. Now enrolling in Edmond. Call 330-CAST. That's 330-2278.
Every day, in state governments throughout the country, crucial decisions are being made that affect the lives of children and their families. But as this process takes place, children are often left voiceless. When these children raise their hands to be heard, is anyone listening? There are people listening. They are child advocates. Join us and raise your hand for kids.
Mick Cornett and Kent Myers back on The Verdict. We're discussing the idea of having a moment of silence
in our public schools. Lieutenant Governor Mary Fallon is visiting with us today, as so is the ACLU's Executive Director, Joanne Bell. Joanne, you were wanting to comment.
I just wanted to add to what had been said or respond about the timing. That in itself is a dictation of government actually ruling over a religious practice when you tell someone they have to pray at a certain time, because we've already established, the day this bill was introduced, Lieutenant Governor Mary Fallon and I both did radio news on this, and the quote from Ms. Fallon was, students are out of control at home and in the classroom, and they have been since prayer was taken out of school. So from that we know this is truly a prayer bill, and by designating the time of day in itself is a government entanglement of religion. That's something I wanted to point out.
The time of day, how does that...
Well, why should government have the right to tell us when to pray?
I see.
Students have the right to pray all day long.
Governor Fallon, you want to respond to that?
I don't remember saying that, but that's okay. Well, back to, what was your original question?
Well, the government entanglement. Is this involving government in prayer in school?
Well, you know, the First Amendment says that you shall establish no religion in school, and as I mentioned, establish no religion in the United States or in the States. But as I was mentioning earlier, you know, the bill does not say that you mandate prayer. The bill says that you may have a moment of silence, you may meditate, you may sit quietly, you may reflect, you may pray if you choose to, but it's misleading to say that we're advocating that you have prayer in school, because that's not the case. And I advocate that it's for a secular purpose, that it will help with good discipline in the classroom, that it helps as a classroom management tool, that it will help the children be calm and settle down. If they choose to say a prayer, so be it. You know, we don't want to say you can't have it either.
Well, now, the bill that we looked at a few minutes ago, and I don't want to call it back up, also prohibits distracting displays. I presume, without meaning to put labels on things, or certainly not meaning to offend anyone by this, but I presume that one could not pray out loud. It must be silent if they're doing it, and they couldn't be doing anything that would constitute a distracting display, either in connection with the prayer or connection with meditation or anything else. Is that the intent of the bill?
That's the intent.
Well, moment of silence bills are getting a lot of attention around the country, and I'd like to bring up a graphic now of the United States and show to our viewers that the states in blue are the states that now have moment of silence laws. And you can see Oklahoma and Missouri are in yellow. Those are states that are actively considering moment of silence laws. And then, of course, the states in orange or red, as it may show, are states that do not have it. That's kind of an interesting geographic pattern that I'd like each of you to comment on, if you will. It looks like, with some minor exceptions, the South and the East have moment of silence laws. The far North and the West do not. Ms. Bell, what do you derive from that pattern, if anything?
That is an unusual pattern. Usually we see something strictly in the South or in the East, so that is an unusual pattern. I attribute it to the movement, you know, to think maybe that this kind of legislation will cure school shootings and violence in our schools, and we're all scared and frightened because of 911. So I think that probably plays a big part in it. I dare say that there are several on that map that will never adopt a moment of silence. I would think there are
Who would
states,
you predict would never adopt?
Probably California, Wisconsin. I can think of several states that probably would not, because they know the students already have a right to a moment of silence.
Governor Fallon, do you draw any geographic distinctions?
I think the map's interesting because typically, you know, California is always on the leading edge of movements, and here they aren't. Yeah. But a lot of the southern states are conservative, but what you'll find in the states that have enacted a moment of silence, there are about 30 different states that either have a mandatory or non-mandatory moment of silence, is that you'll find that there are states that are considered to be a little bit more liberal-leaning and those that are considered to be conservative. It's a great mixture of both. So it's an interesting mixture.
Well, let me stay with you just a minute. Ms. Bell mentioned 911 and school shootings and all. To what degree do you see those events, those tragic events, being an impetus toward making more people focus on this kind of a law, and why would it be an impetus to do that?
Well, I think everybody realizes that we're all busy, we're caught up in busy schedules, and our children are busy, and they have so many distractions in their life, from video games to music to school activities. And I think that after 9/11, that a lot of people did turn towards their faith, did turn towards their family, did turn more towards their sense of civic and community responsibility, and that may have had some impact upon those looking for moments of silence. And certainly we saw a lot of moments of silence and a lot of prayer back in the nation after 9/11.
Let me give each of our guests a chance to wrap up their views on this. Ms. Bell, we'll start with you.
The moment of silence legislation is simply not needed because students already have it. And being the director of the ACLU since 1990, I've always looked and went in search of that student that had been denied their religious freedom in public school, because by golly, the ACLU would love to find a case. We would take that child's case. The bottom line is, when you look at a proposed law like this, you have to look at the intent and you have to look at the potential abuse. I see lots of room for abuse with this, as we are seeing equal access abused in Oklahoma. Equal access does not belong to the students in the schools in Oklahoma anymore. It's run by the Fellowship of Christian Athletes and outside youth ministers who have taken over the wonderful practice of meet me at the poll, the student right to pray at the poll. This is simply not needed. The students have the right. Religious freedom abounds in this country because we defeat laws like this. Do I expect this law to pass? Probably. Do I expect to see abuse? Definitely. The ACLU will be watching.
Lieutenant Governor, your turn.
All right. Well, we're excited about the moment of silence and how much broad support that there is, both between Democrats and Republicans. It's kind of a nonpartisan issue. We have so many different elected officials and public schools and different organizations supporting the legislation. Of course, we've had 7 bills introduced, which shows that there is a wide public interest, that it does serve a public purpose, that does serve a secular purpose. You know, I believe that it will help us with good citizenship with our children. It'll give them a moment to sit down and be calm. It'll help the teachers with discipline. It's a good classroom management tool, and that will serve a good purpose and enhance the quality of life for all Oklahomans.
We're going to have to wrap it up there. Governor Fallon, thank you for coming in. Ms. Bell, thank you for coming by. We'll have a few final thoughts and maybe a special guest when we get back. You're watching The Verdict with Mick Cornett and Kent Myers.
Hello, my name is Ted Smith. I'm president of the board of directors of the Oklahoma Disability Law Center. ODLC provides free legal services in civil matters to people with physical and mental disabilities.
I'm Mike Sykes, Vice President of ODLC. For more information, call 1-800-880-7755.
The Oklahoma Disability Law Center provides high-quality legal services to people with physical and mental disabilities.
Boy Scouts of America, where above all else, character counts.
Bringing out the best in each student. That is the simple goal and tradition of Heritage Hall. The focus on the individual shapes the educational experience at Heritage Hall. Each student benefits from small classes, able, dedicated teachers, a solid academic curriculum, and exceptional co-curricular programs of athletics, arts, community service, and other activities. Parental involvement, personalized counseling, and the development of responsibility, integrity, and love of learning. If you want education taught with pride, then you want Heritage Hall.
Mick Cornett, Kent Myers, back to wrap up another edition of The Verdict.
Wrapping it up in a special way, Delta Dental of Oklahoma was one of our original sponsors. It's a great organization with great people, and it does great things for people in Oklahoma, particularly little people. And we have...
always remember the little people.
Remember the little people. We have two fine guests, and I think really a third secret guest that hasn't come on yet. I want to introduce first Jim Hampton in the insurance business here in Oklahoma City. He's the chairman of the Delta Dental Foundation Board. Jim, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Dental. On my right is Barb Sandlin from Yukon in the dental industry as an office manager, and is very closely associated with the Captain Super Tooth program. Now, Barb, did you bring anybody with you?
I did. I brought Captain Super Tooth.
Oh, my goodness. And there is Delta Dental, Captain Super Tooth. Well, Captain, welcome. Welcome. Well, Jim, this frivolity is out of control here. Tell us what the Captain Super Tooth program is for Oklahoma kids.
Captain Super Tooth was created by Delta Dental Plan of Oklahoma as a way to introduce young children to good and proper dental hygiene. It supports originally Children's Dental Health Month, which occurs in the month of February each year, but the program has grown. It's in demand across the state of Oklahoma in all elementary schools. So now we're kind of doing it on a year-round basis. And
so you take it to the schools?
That's correct. Captain Super Tooth goes to schools by invitation and has an opportunity to present this to first and second grade students and give them an idea of what proper dental hygiene is all about, flossing, brushing, and all of that. And it's interactive. The kids get involved. It's had great acceptance.
Barb, you're involved in this. Why is this important to kids this age?
They need to be exposed to it at an early age. And something with a big character like this that's colorful and lively, it's much easier for him to learn than just having mom say, brush your teeth. And Captain Super Tooth also explains why you need to brush and floss, how to eat good, and make it in a fun way, and it's never too early to start.
So Captain Super Tooth is both sometimes a male, sometimes a female
character.
Yes,
I kind of gave that away, I'm sorry, but,
that's all right.
But Captain Super Tooth can be anybody, you know, just gets those kids to brush and floss.
Well, Jim, Delta Dental of Oklahoma has how many dental members? How many dentists?
We've got about 1,200 participating dentists in the state of Oklahoma.
And it's these participating dentists and the other members of Delta Dental that bring this program to the young people of Oklahoma.
That's correct.
And this is something you'll continue to do in the future, I take
We
it.
plan to do that. We've reached out to about 15 or 20,000 students so far. But each year, as you know, first and second grade students move up. We get a new batch of kids, so we look forward to continuing this.
Well, we appreciate Delta Dental. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming down.
Thank you.
Captain Super Tooth, thanks to you too.
Thanks, Captain.
Kent and I'll be here next week. We'll see you later.
This program was brought to you by Crow and Dunlevy, a professional corporation, and also brought to you by a friend of Oklahoma Lawyers for Children and Delta Dental Plan of Oklahoma.